Hi, welcome to Jeweliyana's kitchen. Today we're going to be making some pumpkin pie from scratch. We want to start off by choosing the right kind of pumpkin. Not all pumpkins are the same. The big ones you use as jack-o'-lanterns are not the same as these little pie pumpkins. So when you're shopping, make sure you get one that is called a pie pumpkin. They are a little sweeter, denser, and less stringy. And then your other best friend in this game is to get a knife that's very thin. Doesn't have to be expensive, but just a nice thin knife is easier to cut through the thick, tougher outer shell of most pumpkin and squash. So you want to crack it in half. Another little hack is that if you just do a little score at the bottom and the top, it is much easier to scoop out all the seeds, which if they're big enough, you can roast them and dry them. So you want to just make sure you get all the seeds out, nice and clean inside. And this is my cheat. You could just put them face down on a pan with a little bit of water, but this is how I do it. I like to put the pumpkin back together and just wrap it in tin foil. I don't know if it's actually true, but I think the foil helps cook it faster. And then we're just going to put that in the oven on a cookie sheet just in case it drips, and bake it at 375 for about an hour till it's nice and soft, and then we will scoop it out. While that's cooking, we're going to get the pie crust ready, and it's on my sweet treats playlist. So if you want to check out and go there and come back, you can, or just stay with me. We'll finish this pie and you can check the dough recipe out in a few minutes. So if you haven't already hit that like button or subscribe, please do if you want to keep cooking with me, and you can check that recipe out there. In a few minutes, when that pumpkin's ready, we will be back and I'll show you how to put the rest of it together from scratch. So I'm using a portion of my dough from the flaky pie crust recipe, and I'm just going to roll it out on a floured surface here to make the pie shell. Some of my tricks and tips on this one is you could roll it out on parchment paper, but I always do it old school and just roll it out on the counter. And one of the tricks you want to do, if you're having trouble and it's sticking to the counter, put a little bit of flour on the top like that, and then flip it over. And if you need a little more flour on this surface, you can put some more on. But this way you don't use too much flour. And can you see how the dough is moving so it's not sticking to the counter? If you start to see it sticking, then you want to stop, do that little floury trick. Just a little bit, and then flip it over and keep rolling it out until you have a nice thin consistency. I think it's about 1/8 of an inch. And then to get it into the pan, you just fold it in half, put your pan there, and you can slide it right into the pan. Nice and easy. And then I lift up the edges a little bit as you're pushing it down, just so it doesn't stretch the dough so much. Next thing we want to do is trim it to the edge of the pan. And you can use any leftover dough and just sprinkle it, spread it out again, and sprinkle it with cinnamon and sugar and make some treats to hold everybody over while you're baking the pie. Okay, so now we have our shell ready to go. I'm going to make the edges decorative here. To make the edges decorative, you can push it with a fork if you want, or just hold your hand on the inside of the pie, and you can pinch. I'm going to pinch it like this, and we'll see. So make your little peace sign, take your other fingers in there, pinch. Or whatever way, if you already have your own style, how you like to make your pie crust. This just makes it a little prettier. And we're just going to set this aside and make the filling. Let's get this pumpkin scooped out. All baked up nicely. And we just want to scrape it out of the shell and then mash it with your potato masher. And you want to have 2 cups of mashed pumpkin. One of the spices that I love to use in a pumpkin pie is actually fresh ginger. You can use ground powdered dry ginger if you want to, but I'm going to use fresh and grate it. So you want to just use approximately 2 tablespoons and remove the skin. And then I like to use this fine side of the grater. Scullery duty is complete. Now let's put this all together. So in a large bowl, we want to have our 2 cups of pumpkin. And to that, we're going to add 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar and 2 eggs and a teaspoon of vanilla. And then some lovely spices. We're going to go with 1/4 teaspoon of clove and 1/2 teaspoon of allspice. Allspice is actually not a blend of all the other spices. It is created from some kind of a pepper, would you believe it or not. Then we also need some salt, 1/2 teaspoon of salt. And we want to do 1/4 teaspoon, well, 1/2 teaspoon of nutmeg. And a whole teaspoon of cinnamon. And then just mix all of this together. Get it all nicely blended. And then we will add that fresh grated ginger. Maybe a quick stir there to blend it in. And 12 ounces of evaporated milk. I would not recommend using skim. I mean, we're making pie, so I wouldn't even bother cutting corners. But it doesn't hold the same consistency as just regular whole evaporated milk. And then this is gonna go in the pie shell. Another kitchen hack is that you want to put it on your pie pan on a cookie sheet. You could put a piece of tin foil underneath it to catch drips, but it's just a little more precarious to transport to the oven because the batter or the filling is so liquidy. So you just want to add carefully. Like if your pie shell's a little small and you have more batter, don't let it overflow. So you want to nicely fill the shell, and then this is going to go in the oven at 425 for 15 minutes, and then you reduce your heat to 350 and bake it for approximately 45 minutes until a knife comes out clean. I'll show you. This is how you tell if the pie is ready. You take a stainless steel knife and you put it in, and do you see how it's still a little sticky there? So we're going to give it a couple extra minutes. Doesn't that look delicious? I know it smells amazing. So if you enjoyed cooking with me and you would like to learn some more recipes, please subscribe and I'll see you on the next video. Thank you so much for stopping by Jeweliyana's Kitchen. Have a great day.